Welcome to Isolating Mechanisms in Simple English. We all know species evolve, but why do they evolve into different species despite the fact they could physically still reproduce? Simple. Isolating mechanisms. A species is a group of organisms that reproduce with each other. The species are distributed into populations, and because of isolating factors, they evolve into other organisms that cannot reproduce with other populations later on. But let's take this slowly. Three isolating factors or mechanisms. First, geographical isolation. Happens when two populations of the same species are divided by a natural barrier. For example, these two animal populations are divided by a river and cannot mate because none can swim. Each population evolves differently because of different environmental conditions on each side of the river. The two populations cannot mate, and therefore they don't share the same traits, and each evolves into a different species. However, this type isn't flawless. Let's say the river freezes and the llamas can't pass, and so they reproduce and stop isolation. The natural barriers are not the same for all organisms. For example, birds will not be affected by this river because they can fly and so they could have sex in the air. Other than rivers, barriers could be islands, mountains, or even lakes. Behavioral isolation happens when two populations could reproduce but have different ways and reaches of reproduction. For example, these two bird populations are guillerminas, and they could physically mate but will not because the blue guillerminas sing to call their mate while the black guillerminas dance to impress their mate. Therefore, they won't reproduce between species because they cannot attract other mates. Last but not least, temporal isolation. This mostly happens in plants and works when two populations do not reproduce at the same time, so they never get to reproduce. For example, these two populations of plants, the Stephan camerons, each pollinate at different times. The red do in May, and the yellow in January. Therefore, they will never get to reproduce, even if they are growing next to each other. Because all these isolations are based on the inability to reproduce, then all these go under the big title, reproductive isolation. Pretty simple, right? Anyways, this has been Isolating Mechanisms in Simple English. Thank you for watching.